A junkie cop trying to run away from his sins. An ex-con making his enemy pay for theirs. And also Army Hammer for some reason. All this week as we review Faster.
It's not Army Hammer.
I mean, it's not Army Hammer, but the dude's basically Army Hammer. Like, that's what Army Hammer's been accused of.
Well, I guess that's true.
Like a rich white psychopath? I mean, that's Army Hammer, but it's shorthand for Army. Arnold Hammer style. Okay, welcome to the Bomb Squad, where we appreciate the underappreciated. And this week, we are 100% on task because we are reviewing Faster, the Dwayne Johnson film, which was both a critical and financial bomb, and it really shouldn't have been. So, Josh, why don't you... Oh, wait, this movie was from 2010. It stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, although I think he's just Dwayne Johnson in this. It was directed by George Tillman, and it also stars Billy Bob Thornton and Tom Berenger, but not really.
So, The Rock is sent to prison for robbing a bank, but he wants to get out to take revenge on the other crew who stole the money and killed his brother and tried to kill him. It's your classic revenge film. It's kind of set up, to be honest. It's good.
That's right. And also, they shot him in the head and he has a metal plate in his brain.
That does come into play in a way I did not remember.
Yeah, also, it's one of the first times where someone having a metal plate in their head isn't just like some weird backstory that's never used. Okay, so let's start off with the bad of this movie. So Faster, it's the story of three different people. It's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who plays Driver, because nobody has a name. He plays Driver, who's out for revenge. And then Billy Bob Thornton plays Cop, who's who's like investigating Driver's murders. And then we have Oliver Jackson Cohen, who's the Invisible Man, and he plays the Killer, who's been hired to kill Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And also, okay, let me just explain his character. He's a millionaire.
Explain every facet of his character.
He's a millionaire assassin who's mastered yoga.
You beat yoga.
Yeah.
And he only does hits because they give him excitement, and he only charges people $1 for it. Okay, let me just say, the movie Faster, it's like this gritty, like 70s throwback film. But also, then every once in a while, we cut to this cartoonish serial killing hitman.
Yeah, it's weird too because there's not even like it doesn't. Not just stylistically, it doesn't fit because, yeah, like you're saying, it's like a grindhouse movie. Other than the fact that there's this hitman who lives in a mansion and drives like $1 million sports cars, and is talking to a therapist and taking pills and wants to propose to his girlfriend, but isn't sure if he's ready. Like, not only does it feel like it's from a different movie, but he doesn't affect the plot in any way. Like he shows up to almost be a nuisance twice. But then, like, The Rock just gets away, and he, like, if he had been completely cut out, the movie would be 100% the same. That's what's strange about it.
It would be better, honestly. And also,
yeah.
Not only does he never affect The Rock, but The Rock, like, walks through him each time. Like, every time he attacks, The Rock, like, puts a stop to his attack and then just leaves him alone. Because The Rock, he's out for revenge, but he doesn't want to kill any innocent people. So, like, even though this guy's shooting at him, since he has no beef with him, he just lets him live. Like, he'll stop the attack, but he won't. Which we'll talk about later.
This should be the reverse, because we're not scared for this hitman who's trying to foil the hero.
Yeah. We're not scared for The Rock, because he's beating the shit out of this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, like, because Maggie Grace plays his wife or his girlfriend, and then they get married. There's a lot going on with this guy. And, like, yeah, it just, like, she's wasted. She's just there to look attractive, which is... All he does, really, is to reinforce that The Rock is on a quest for vengeance, because numerous times he, like, tries to get The Rock to engage and The Rock doesn't. And then at the end, he has a gun on The Rock and he's gonna kill him, and The Rock's like, I don't care, you can kill me if you want. Yeah, that's a cool thing to learn about The Rock's character, but we don't need this other character to do it. We could have had anyone else.
Yeah, it's there, and there's so many connections to where The Rock is like hunting down his targets, where it's like he could have fought more of them, and it would have had more of an impact than him just kind of scuffling with this random guy a couple times, you know.
Yeah, and I feel like that really, it really brings down the whole movie. I mean, the movie, it's not enough to
Yeah, take that out of it, and it's a solid movie, like almost in every other aspect.
The movie itself, let's move past the bad parts and talk about the good parts. The movie itself is like one of the best stories about revenge, because it's one of the movies, and I feel like I really love revenge stories, and I feel like we're going to talk a lot about them. But it's one of the movies where it doesn't, like, I hate revenge stories where you don't see the toll that taking revenge takes on someone, you know? And
Yeah.
this movie does not shy away. It's almost like 100% about because The Rock's character he's like completely driven. He's driven faster, I guess, because his brother died. But like to the point where it's like detrimental, and he even knows it's detrimental. Like he fights one of the guys in the bar, and then like he finds out that the guy survived the night.
In local news, a Henderson man is fighting for his life this morning after being brutally attacked at a local gentleman's club. The man is suffering from multiple stab wounds. Doctors at Clark County Medical Center describe his condition as critical.
So he like turns his car around just to shoot him in the hospital to make sure he's dead.
It's such a good, yeah. The idea of bursting into the ICU to shoot someone during surgery is so good.
Yeah, and like the idea, like Josh called him the good guy, but he is 100% not the good guy in this film. He's more of an anti-hero, if not the villain of the piece. Like he is not a good character, like a good.
Yeah,
person
although
anyway.
there is, I mean, he has a good reason, and they do show, obviously, like the whole thing is about like the emptiness of revenge, and they even kind of make it a point to show that.
Well, the first one
None
he kills.
of them have great lives, from what you can see.
Yeah, but like the first person he kills, he just walks into a telemarketing place and shoots the guy in the head. And then the second guy he kills, like some old man who's like a pervert. And so he kills that guy. And both of those guys, it's like, okay, they were still doing bad things. I guess telemarketing isn't that bad. But then the third guy is
He's like a bouncer
He's a
at like
bouncer.
a bar or a strip club.
yeah, but he has like a kid, and he's obviously like trying to fix his life. Because when like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson kills him, he's like, tell my son I'm sorry. And so, like, there's obviously repercussions. And he even because they have a cool standoff where they're about to fight.
No matter who it is, Joe, you ain't see a damn thing.
It's this weird thing where it's like, he understands, unlike the other two before him, that reckoning is coming. And so he's almost at peace with it.
Yeah, no, and there is that aspect to it of like this guy is like meeting him on his terms, and it's kind of like, I mean, The Rock's huge. Everyone's gonna notice him everywhere he goes. Like,
Yeah, he's especially huge in this movie. Also,
I don't know why he keeps getting away with walking into hospitals when people should be like, hey, isn't that the fugitive on a manhunt right now?
Is that the fugitive, or is that another 8-foot tall with a
Is it a
giant
He-Man
gun?
action figure that came to life, or a different person?
Also, like, and to kind of talk about the grindhouse, I feel like it's less, well, I guess the 70s. It's more like a retrospect to like Point Blank, like those kind of action films from the 70s. But like at the beginning, like it sets you up perfectly for the tone, because it's like he goes to meet the Warren, who's played by Tom Berenger for some reason.
You didn't ask for trouble. But you didn't back down from it either.
It's like, oh man, is this guy driven or something? Because I feel like they haven't given us enough context clues.
the warden even gives him a card to be like, here's a way to like a rehabilitation thing, and he just flicks it away before he starts
Yeah.
jogging. It's like, oh, he rejects the idea of not getting revenge, and it's very blatant, but I enjoy it. Like,
Yeah,
it's-
I mean, it's the tone. Like, again, none of these guys are given names, really. I mean, you eventually learn their names, but they go by driver and faster. I mean, driver and faster. Driver and cop and shooter. So, like, it is very like a man with no name type of film. And I think that's good until...
You beat yoga.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because it'll, like, go from The Rock. Like, at one point, The Rock kills the bouncer, and then the bouncer says, like, tell my son I'm sorry. So he calls his son, and he's about to... Or he tells him, like, your dad said he's sorry, and the son's like, what happened? Is he okay? And The Rock's like, no, he's dead. And then it just cuts to his or that shooter's girlfriend, and the shooter, like, in wedding gowns and suits and tuxes, shooting cans in the middle of the desert. It's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? What is this?
yeah, it's so nothing. But at the end, someone's like, "Hey, why do you even do this for $1?" Like the movie itself is like, "Hey, isn't this dumb as shit that you're here like doing this?"
The movie constantly points out how dumb the shooter is, and at no point was the director like, wait, I have to keep justifying this character's actions. Maybe I should just cut him the fuck out of it. But yeah, so eventually The Rock, like, he's killed everyone else, and he goes to a preacher who's the last person on his list. And he decides to let the preacher live, because after this, he's talked to the son. He's about to kill him, but then he meets, like, the preacher's family. And so he lets the preacher live, because the preacher is the only one, really, who not only feel like, because the other guy feels regret, the guy with the kid, but the preacher not only feels regret, but he doesn't fight The Rock. Like, he understands that he's about to die, where the bouncer was like, yeah, I feel regret about what we did, but I'm still gonna try to live.
Right.
But this guy's like, okay, I understand that penance and everything. I'm a preacher. So The Rock lets him live, and he, like, shoots the ground around him. And then dumbass Army Hammer guy comes out, and that's where he has The Rock gun to rights, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you. And The Rock's like, okay. Which, again, that's a good scene in that you realize that The Rock, he was never a violent person. They just kind of turned him into one.
I've got nothing against you.
I've been trying to kill you for the past 3 days, and you've got nothing against me.
And
Yeah, like he never even like fights back in a lot of senses when he should.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's a good scene, except for the fact that character is pointless.
Because immediately after that character gets dismissed to just
Yeah.
walk out of the
'Cause-
scene and out of the movie.
That's where it's revealed that Billy Bob Thornton is the last bad guy. Because the guy's like, well, I'm going to shoot you. And The Rock's like, okay. And he's like, oh, you think that you've killed everyone. But actually, there was a secret head of everything. And he's like, oh, shit, what? And he's like, yeah, there was. And then Billy Bob Thornton's like, it's me. And so,
Yeah, he comes in and he's like, all right, hitman, I guess. He's like, wait, why'd you hire me then if you were going to hunt him down? And then Billy Bob's like, I didn't know if I was up to it, but I am. It's like, okay, so you're even admitting that's the hitman.
he's like, it's my turn to point out your fruitlessness as a character. I mean, because Billy Bob's like a junkie.
Yeah, and like his ex-wife obviously like hates him too, and she's also a junkie. It's Moon Bloodgood. And then at the very end of the movie, he's like, honey, I think I figured this out, and I think things are going to be okay. And he's holding a magazine that says, like, 5 ways to rekindle the bedroom.
He's holding
Something
he's holding a magazine that says 5 things that you can do when you haven't been shot in the head.
Yeah.
And then he gets shot in the head by The Rock. And so he's dying, and The Rock's like, yeah, I got a metal plate in my head. You should know that, because you were there. And then the Billy Bob Thornton says,
I created my own hell. And I'm the demon who crawled up out of it.
I like that line. It's so pulpy. I think this is The Rock's best movie in terms of his acting. It is definitely one of the best.
Really?
Yeah. Because here's the thing. So for a long time, up until very recently, The Rock was always like cast as this like a tough guy who had like a no nonsense guy. But they would never use it right because The Rock A is super charming, so why wouldn't you use his charm? And B, like they would never do anything with it, so he just came off as like a boring character. Such as in Doom. Or in
I forgot about Doom.
like half of his movies that are bad. Walking Tall. And so like he didn't have a lot to play with, but Faster really takes all his like they take the fact that he can like he looks like a giant monster of a man.
Please don't hurt me.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
And they use it to like tell a story, and The Rock actually has to like play this kind of stone cold killer.
I see what you mean. Like, it's one of the few good movies he's in where he's not playing just The Rock, like the fun, charming guy.
Yeah, because, okay, here's the thing. The Rock's super charming. But, so if he's acting super charming, he's not really acting. And in Faster, and when they put him as like this stone-faced, like tough guy who doesn't have any humor, it's never for a real reason other than the fact that The Rock just looks like a big tough guy. Where Faster puts him as this, like the big tough, like he doesn't have a heart guy. But it actually uses that for his character. Where he's like so driven for revenge that he just has no emotions anymore. And then, like, this is a scene I want to talk about. One of the best scenes in the movie is The Rock goes to visit his girlfriend. And, I mean, obviously, and she's, like, mad because he made her stop coming around. And she asks why, and he says he didn't want to ruin 3 lives. And then she asks, like, because she has a kid, and she's like, oh, was that my kid? And then she's like, no, this kid's way younger than your kid would have been. And then she says, I had to get rid of him. And so The Rock thinks that she gave him up for adoption. But no, she had an abortion. And she killed the baby because of the fact that The Rock shut her off, and so she just couldn't handle it. And The Rock like runs out, and she's like, and this is like in a more shittier movie, she would have kept the kid, and he would have had something to come back to, and B, she would have still been pining after him. But since this movie's about the harsh consequences of crime and revenge, she had an abortion, and she's like, there's nothing for you here anymore, and he's like walking out, and she like goes after him, and like in a normal movie it'd be the scene where she's like, this is just gonna destroy you, you don't have to do this. But in this one,
I know what you're doing. I saw it on TV. I hope you kill them all!
and
That's a good scene, too.
And Josh just said that The Rock is doing a bad job of acting, but that scene has more emotion than any other scene in the movie. And The Rock isn't, like, he's not crying or anything. It's just the way he plays. Even though The Rock appearance doesn't change, you can tell by the way he's moving and, like, the fact that his face has gone from being angry to being, like, dead, that it's completely, like, devastated him that this girl has, like, ruined. Like, I feel like he didn't realize that his son was dead, you know?
Yeah, like that was like the one little hope he had left. Like, well, maybe my son and like her had a good life, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And you just see him being devastated.
It's especially, it's more noticeable in a movie like this that's so over the top in a lot of aspects, like the 70s kind of exploitation, like look to like the shots and everything, that to just have moments like that, it's like, okay.
Faster is the perfect example of what he can do when he's given like really meaty things to chew on. So guys, that was Faster. It's one of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's best, if not his best performance. It's also a really good movie about the consequences of revenge. And despite a third character who's really unneeded, it's still worth a watch.
Double feature is Drive and Faster. Drive, Faster.
Oh, yeah.
And it's 2 movies about a driver with no name getting revenge.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say that Faster is better than Drive. Sorry, Nicholas Winding Refn.
There is. I won't even get into that. I was gonna say that as a joke, but you just said that as a fact.
It is better. Like the characters are more interesting.
You beat yoga.
Yeah.
And so next week we're gonna do a movie that's kind of related in a very obscure way, and you'll find out why. But we're gonna call it the Poochie, the Poochie connection. But
Poochie.
also, the wellness check is on my YouTube page, my film one, which is Hot of Films, and we just released the deep dive about cartoons, rated R movies from cartoons. But that's the Bomb Squad, and we will see you guys on the other side of the explosion. What a terrible
Oh,
catch.
that's just fucking awful.
I regretted it immediately. All right, guys. See you next week.